Robbery, burglary, and heist sound similar, but they mean different things. And the Louvre case is the perfect example to show the difference. Welcome back to the Learn English podcast, the podcast teaching English in context so you can learn naturally. On today's episode, we're going to discuss the incident that took place at the Louvre Museum, and we're going to use it to learn some real-life English vocabulary. When the news covered this story, reporters used a lot of terms like burglary, robbery, and heist. These words are common in English, but they can be confusing if you don't know the difference. But today, we're going to explain these terms clearly so you can understand them when you hear them again. Are you ready to learn these vocabulary words? Then let's begin. Let's start with three words that appear to be very similar. The first one is robbery. Robbery is when you steal something from someone, but you use force or a threat. The victim is present during this, and it can happen anywhere, inside a building or outside. An example of this would be when someone goes to a bank and threatens a cashier to give them money. A burglary is similar, but you're going to see what the slight difference is. This is when someone illegally enters into a building to steal something. No person needs to be threatened during this, and usually the victim is not even present. An example of this would be if someone breaks into your house while you are at work and steals your stuff. A heist is a more specific word because it is a planned action to steal something that is very valuable, like art, money, or jewelry. This is one of the key differences between a heist and a more spontaneous crime. Spontaneous means that it just happens in the moment. You're not planning it ahead of time. A heist is organized and intentional. What happened at the Louvre Museum was a heist because they targeted the museum's jewels. The goal of a heist is simple. First, you have to break in, which means you have to gain access to the building, and then you want to score something valuable. To score is a verb, and it means to successfully steal something. You might also hear the noun form of this where you call the thing that you are stealing the score. In the Louvre case, the crown jewels were targeted. The thieves wanted to score the crown jewels, and the crown jewels, therefore, were the score. To do this successfully, the thieves had to plan ahead of time. Heists are rarely random. They usually involve careful planning ahead of time because the thieves need to know a lot of information to successfully complete the heist. This planning can take days, weeks, or even months. They have to study the target, identify how they are going to do it, and decide exactly who is going to do what action. Thieves often study the layout or the blueprint of a building. A layout means where things are located in the building, and then a blueprint is a little bit more official. That is an architectural diagram of where things are located in the building. That is a more detailed map. Studying this helps them understand the entrances, the exits, and the security. You're going to hear this process referred to as casing the joint or casing the place. This is when they look at the layout, who has access to the building, and what the building looks like inside. A joint is a casual way of saying a place, so case the joint and case the place mean the same thing. Another term for this is reconnaissance or recon. Recon is the shortened way of saying reconnaissance, and again, this just means that the thieves are doing some studying ahead of time so they know what environment they are going into. Usually when there is a team of people who are doing a heist, there is a mastermind who is the person who actually plans the heist, and then the accomplices, people who help with the crime. Sometimes a heist is even an inside job. An inside job means that one or more of the people who are involved with the crime actually work in the building that is being targeted. In the Louvre case, there was some investigation to see if one of the members of the security staff had helped the thieves. At the time of this recording, there hasn't been further details, so I am not sure if that incident was an inside job or not. Disguises are another thing that are used to pull off a heist. A disguise is something that hides your identity. In many heists, disguises are one of the most important tools because they allow thieves to blend in and avoid suspicion. Blend in means that people don't notice them, they don't stand out, they don't look like they're out of place. So disguises can be effective because people tend to trust what looks familiar. If someone looks like an employee or a construction worker or like they're doing maintenance on the building, oftentimes other people will just ignore them or won't question why they are there. And in the Louvre case, the thieves used construction or maintenance vests, so they looked like they were doing work around the building. When they were in this disguise, they didn't have to force a door open to try to gain access. Instead, they used a furniture lift truck to go to the second story of the museum, and then they cut through a window and entered the building. Once inside, they went straight to the gallery where the jewels were being displayed. They smashed the glass case and stole the jewels. So you will hear this get called a smash and grab, which means that you break whatever display the jewels are in and then you take them quickly. The goal with a smash and grab is to complete the theft as quickly as possible and escape before security or police can respond. Speed is critical in a smash and grab. The thieves plan ahead of time where to go and what exactly to take so they can escape as quickly as possible. In this case, the theft only took a matter of minutes. While the thieves were in the museum, someone was also acting as a lookout. A lookout is a person who is outside of the building and they are in communication with the people who are inside to tell them if something is occurring or if there's something that they need to be aware of, like the police arriving. The Louvre team had at least 2 people outside who acted as lookouts. And they also helped with the getaway. A getaway plan is the plan that you have for how to escape after you commit the crime. This step is very important because without a successful getaway, the heist fails. Thieves have to plan their escape route in advance so they know where to go and how to avoid being caught. They may choose smaller vehicles or quieter streets or areas with less police presence. The goal is to leave quickly and avoid attention. After stealing the jewels, the thieves used the same lift truck to descend back down to the road and then got on the backs of motor scooters that were waiting for them. These were their getaway vehicles and allowed them to have a fast exit through the city. Instead of fleeing the country, the thieves decided to lay low. Lay low means that you go into hiding and you try to avoid attention. If thieves tell people what they did, or if they start spending a ton of money that they didn't have before, they can attract attention to themselves. The purpose of laying low is to try to avoid detection by police. So by laying low, they try to reduce suspicion and allow time to pass, and eventually try to escape to a different location, and to wait for the situation to blow over. Blow over is a phrasal verb, and what it means is that you're waiting for people to stop remembering what happened and to stop looking for you. Once people start forgetting about what happened, it's then safer to come out of hiding. The Louvre thieves were hoping that the situation would blow over and that they could lay low, but that wasn't the case. Police investigated the crime and arrests were made. At the time of this recording, 8 people have been arrested in connection with the case. The Louvre case shows that laying low doesn't always guarantee that you will be able to escape. Before we finish today's episode, I wanted to give you some film and TV recommendations that you can use to practice your listening comprehension. These are stories about heists, so you will hear the vocabulary terms that we went over today, like Mastermind, Lookout, Getaway, and Recon. When you watch them, try and listen for the vocabulary terms and see how they are used in real conversations. The first recommendation is probably the most famous, and that is Ocean's 11. It's a fun and stylish heist movie. There is a version from 1960, but the more popular, more famous version is from 2001, and it stars George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Matt Damon. The 2001 version is especially good for intermediate to upper intermediate English learners because the dialogue is clear, modern, and focused on explaining the plan. Since the characters spent a lot of time discussing strategy, teamwork, and security, you'll hear how many of these heist vocabulary terms are used naturally in conversation. This is a franchise, so if you like the original movie, there are 2 additional movies with the original cast, and then another movie that stars Sandra Bullock. Our second recommendation is Good Girls. This is a TV show and it follows 3 suburban moms who end up getting involved in crime. They learn how to plan heists while avoiding getting caught. This show is good for intermediate English learners because the characters use very natural, everyday American English. Since they are not professional criminals at first, they often explain their plans with simpler language, and that makes it easier to understand and follow the story. This aired from 2018 to 2021. This means that there are 4 seasons and lots of episodes for you to practice your listening comprehension. Our next recommendation is a Netflix show. It's actually a Spanish show, but it does have an English dub, which means that you can listen to it in English, and it also has English subtitles. This is great for ESL learners, especially if you feel like your listening comprehension is not as strong. This is a good way that you can watch the content and see if you're understanding it. In English, the show is called Money Heist. Money Heist is about a mastermind called the Professor. He recruits a team to break into important financial buildings in Spain, including the Royal Mint and the Bank of Spain. Each person on the team uses a fake name based on a city, and they follow a detailed plan that includes disguises, reconnaissance, and escape strategies. It also has almost every vocabulary term that we went over today, so this is a really great option if you want to practice. There are 5 seasons available on Netflix, which means that there are a lot of episodes where you can hear this vocabulary used again and again in real conversations. Another excellent Netflix heist show is Lupin. This story follows a man, Hassan Diop, who uses disguises, planning, and deception to steal valuable items and expose powerful people who wronged his family. The story is inspired by a famous fictional thief. It started in 2021 and it is still ongoing, so there are new episodes being made. It currently has 3 parts, and each season continues his larger mission of revenge. One of the most interesting parts, if you can believe it, is that there is a storyline where he plans to steal valuable jewelry from the Louvre, which connects directly to the real case we've discussed on today's episode and makes this show feel especially relevant. The show is a French show, so the original dialogue and acting is in French. However, just like Money Heist, there is an English dub, so you can watch it in English. The English level is intermediate, and it is especially good for English learners. Many of the scenes focus on planning and conversation, but it still has a lot of action and suspenseful scenes to keep you engaged. And our final recommendation is The Italian Job. This is a classic heist film that has a team of thieves who plan to steal gold and then escape using small cars to drive through narrow city streets. The plan includes disguises, teamwork, and a carefully organized getaway, which makes it a great example of how heists are planned and executed. There is a British version from 1969 that stars Michael Caine, but there is also a newer version from 2003 that stars Mark Wahlberg and Charlize Theron. The English level is intermediate, and it is especially good for learners who want to hear clear American English while following an exciting story. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you have a better understanding of the vocabulary behind a real-life heist. A reminder to look at the description of this podcast episode for helpful links and the vocabulary list of the words and phrases that we use today. If you liked this episode, if you found it helpful, please share it with someone you know. You can also leave us a review on whatever app you are using to listen to this podcast on. Both of those things will help us grow our audience and help more people on their English journey. You can follow us on social media or go to our website at learnenglishpod.com. And remember to follow the show so you don't miss our next episode when it comes out next week. Until then, keep learning English.